If I can get everyone's attention for a moment here, I'm assuming the majority of folks here tonight are here for the public hearing, and that, of course, is the first thing we're dealing with before the council meeting. So for those of you who have been at public hearings before, you're well aware I have to read this long-winded chairperson statement, and then we'll get right into the meat and potatoes of it. So the chairperson statement reads as follows. This public hearing is being convened pursuant to the Community Charter and Local Government Act. In accordance with the Charter, the time and place of the public hearing is advertised in two editions of the Hope Standard newspaper. In accordance with the District of Hope Application Procedure and Public Hearing Information Meeting Procedure Bylaw number 1393 and the Local Government Act, the required specifications have been complied with. At this public hearing, any persons who believe that their interest in the subject property is affected by the proposed agenda item may speak or present written submissions to council on this matter. As chairperson, I will read any written briefs from persons unable to attend this public hearing so that they may become part of the record. Those who wish to speak should, when invited to speak, clearly state their name and address for the record. It is important that all who speak at this meeting restrict their remarks to the matters contained in the bylaws. No one will be, or should feel, discouraged or prevented from making his or her views known. Members of council may ask questions of those making presentations. The main function of council, however, at this public hearing is to listen to the comments of the public, not to debate the merits of the bylaws. Members of council may debate any issues on the bylaws at the time of third or final reading. The order of proceedings will be as follows. 1. The Director of Community Development will briefly describe the matters under consideration and provide a brief explanation of the proposed bylaws. 2. The applicant or agent for the applicant may be invited for comment. 3. All written submissions will form part of the record of the public hearing. 4. Oral submissions from the public will be heard, and any further written submissions, if any, will be received. And, of course, at the end, the public hearing will be closed. It's important to note that further submissions, either verbal or written, regarding the proposed bylaws cannot be made to council following the public hearing. After this public hearing has concluded, the council may, without further notice, give whatever effect it believes proper to the representations made at this public hearing. The public hearing tonight is looking at a number of issues, and that is the official community plan amendment bylaw number 1386-2017 at 21692 Union Bar Road, the zoning amendment bylaw 1387-2017 pertaining to 21692 and 21732 Union Bar Road, and then third one, zoning amendment bylaw 1394-2017 at 66897 Copper Lake Road. And maybe we can get Mr. Gill to kick things off.
Through your worship, the property owner would like to redesignate and rezone and consolidate the subject properties in order to subdivide into 12 large country residential zone parcels. The proponent is here. The proponent is prepared to make a presentation for council and the public, or members of the public in the gallery here.
Okay, sounds pretty good. And Mr. Jacobs is here. Mr. Jacobs, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Worship. Do you mind if I stand up front? I really don't want my back to the people.
Oh, absolutely. No, you're
Thank you.
and I'm sure this is not your first rodeo presenting, so
Yeah, actually, it is in front of this council.
Oh.
But, I have done this in the Okanagan a few times. So, thank you, Your Worship, council, members of the public. I'm Mike Jacobs, as it says on the screen. I'm with Amy Anderson Construction. So first, quickly, just a project overview. This property, or two properties that we own, are up on Union Bar Road. We're looking at 12 to 15 new rural home sites. The reason for the range is that we need to do a lot of survey, a lot of assessment as to exactly what the property can yield under the proposed zoning. We would be allowed over 20 home sites. We know we won't get that because of the topography and such. So again, will be, the minimum lot size will be 1 hectare. Most or almost all will be larger than the 1 hectare size. We'll be looking at individual wells and septic for each lot. Both systems will be engineered for each lot. We'll be building an asphalt road and overhead utilities into the property from Union Bar Road. I haven't received it in writing yet, but BC Hydro has assured me verbally that there's enough electricity up there that it won't affect any of the neighborhoods. Current status, the property, the large parcel has sat vacant since it was purchased by EAC in the 1970s. Upon rezoning approval, we'll begin first by doing selective logging. This will allow us to better study the property. Right now it's very thickly covered in trees, and it's almost impossible to do an accurate survey of it. So once we do that, and we will be able to work with our consulting engineers to design the building sites and the road layout. And we'll have a drawing at the end of the presentation that we can discuss specifics about. Through the process, as per District of Hope bylaws and good subdivision practice, we will be engaging geotechnical engineers to assess all potential hazards and design any mitigation requirements, including preserving all drainage areas and creeks that may provide water to neighboring properties. I spoke with a couple of residents, and one sent an email today concerned about water. I don't know how all the systems work, but you know, I'm a civil engineer, not a geotech engineer, but have a lot of experience in this as well. And we'll deal with all of those concerns with the proper experts as we go through the process. Some issues and resolutions. First, as always, we'll follow all the requirements of the district and engage engineering specialists as needed. We have a lot of engineering expertise in-house as well. To be perfectly clear, we will not clear cut the property. There is an adjoining property that was clear cut 10 years ago or so. We will not be doing that. We will be doing selective logging. We will want to open up views on the property. We will want to create home sites. We will do that in an orderly fashion so that we still preserve the trees where appropriate. Some more trees may have to be taken down just so that there isn't tree fall when it's windy, like it was out today. So all those parameters will be taken into consideration, but at the end of the day, it will not be clear cut. You know, it will be thinner, but you won't look across from the other side of the lake and see a bare hillside. We will continue to allow hiking access, and we'll work with the District of Hope to create some trails through the property. Not sure how that's going to be yet, whether that would just be along what's now the Pretty Logging Road, but there are some areas of the property that won't have houses on. Maybe they're appropriate for the District of Hope to take green space ownership of and have trails. Okay, those details need to be worked through. When we do the subdivision, we'll manage it to minimize and mitigate disturbance to the neighbors, who we will keep informed of all our activities. We have developed many subdivisions in the Okanagan Valley, and we like to be openly with our communication and explain what we're going to do and then do what we say. Oh, sorry, fancier than I thought it was. So I'll keep clicking here as it on my screen. So here we are today, and for rezoning. Rezoning is successful tonight, and we will look at selective logging sometime between June and August of this year. Then in the fall, we'll look at roadworks, home site prep, and utilities, with home sites for sale spring, summer of next year. And here is the preliminary site map. Let me call it that because, as I said, we have a lot of planning and engineering to do. And just see, there it is. So we have, this is existing Union Bar Road. This drawing is a little different in that the north arrow is pointing to the side here. Usually you see a map, the north arrow points up, but to fit on the screen better. So here's the north arrow. There are existing homes here. You can see them there. There's some more homes in here. This was the big logging yard warehouse over here. There's another home off the map up there. A home here, a few others there. So this property here is one our company purchased in 2005, but the large parcel, as I said earlier, we purchased in the early 1970s. We are looking at creating a new road through here onto what's now the logging road, following that logging road right to the edge of the property, which is now gated off, I believe, by the property owner over here. That would be up to the district whether that gate stays or goes, or but This would be a dedicated public road, so when we talk about hiking, there may be a way to coordinate trails just along the side of the road or certainly on the road. It will still, even with the selective logging that we do, it will still be a very, very scenic place to walk along. And then from here, we'd have to work with the district how the trails would be. As far as the lots, again, this is just conceptual as to what can happen. This is quite steep, so I'm not sure if this will become a lot or not. It depends whether we can create a building site there. But you'll see the building sites. These houses will be separated from each other. This will be rural residential living. And so we will be, this road is already there, so there will be just a few trees cut along there. And then we'll need to do a fair bit of clearing here so this road can go in. There are some rock cuts that have to happen through here. And then we will be clearing out building sites, taking selected trees out to open up the views, because there's some great views towards Kwakawa Lake and others here. You can see that these are very large size lots. They are designed that way because up here is very steep terrain. We wouldn't be able to, to carry the road all the way up here and subdivide more lots. We recognize that. And so this may be something, in working with the district, that this turns into green space or district parkland, but we need to go through those details with staff. With that, open for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any additional comments, Mr. Gill?
No, Your Worship.
Okay, now I believe we have a couple of letters that should be written, that should be read into the record here as a matter of process. And of course, as I read them, it's not an endorsement of the content, it's just reading into the record kind of concept. So we'll start off with a letter here that is written by Ms. Sydney Brawl. And that was received, I guess here, when was this, May 23rd? Yeah, okay. And that was, it says here, RE public hearing OCP and zoning amendments for 21692 and 21732 Union Bar Road. So pertaining to our discussion here. It says, Dear Mayor and Council, firstly I would like to thank the staff members of the District Home Planning Department for their patience and valuable assistance in reviewing with me the documents and mapping regarding the tentative plans for the 12-lot subdivision. Secondly, I would like to ensure that District Council confirms that groundwater will be properly managed in the current and future land use changes within the small Union Bar Valley. As the property owner of PID 014-670-976, I am the only drainage point for the Oasis 15 Reserve and the northwestern slope of Thacker Mountain, and most importantly, the entire southwestern slope of Mount Ogilvie. I am the plug at the bottom of your bathtub, it says here. The mountains and the turn of the Fraser River preclude any other drainage options to the west. And nature has maintained a perfect balance for a century with the many small marshes in the area slowing the flow of water. But recently some large marsh areas have been filled and ditched, adding high-speed flows, and the buildup of silt in my creek during high rainfall events. Between the heavy spring rains and the Fraser River freshet, the railway tunnel at my doorstep could easily be overburdened, flooding any property in the CN railway line. The natural marshes within the Union Bar Valley protected, absorbed, and slowed down high water events for the last century and need to be protected and groundwater better managed. Conclude by saying the lots currently under review for rezoning are to the east of the valley, but I remain concerned as there are many variables to the Union Bar aquifer functions. And that's signed with respect, Sydney Rolfe from Hope here. So that's the first letter, and then we have another letter, and that is signed by Bodner, M.A. Bodner, and was received, I guess, on 10th of May. It's addressed District of Hope Council pertaining to official community plan bylaw number 1386 and zoning amendment bylaw 1387 for the properties at 21692 and 21732 Union Bar Road. And it states as follows: I am Michael Bodner, a co-owner of the property with the address Union Bar and Hope, and represent two other co-owners. Our property is, so it's blacked out, I guess, for privacy purposes, that's okay, and is just beyond the District of Hope, northwest of the subject properties. One significant easement and a right-of-way are registered to our property, collectively known as A12, 1, 2, 3, and are adjacent and or cross over the subject properties, allowing us our only access to Union Bar Road. Specifically, the property at 21732 Union Bar Road shares a border with easement L22 for a few hundred meters, and the property at 21692 Union Bar intersects easement L24 for a short distance. We have been advised that these are not typical transit easements, as they apply to rights over, upon, and under said lands. Second point mentioned here by Mr. Bodner was for more than 20 years, the issues surrounding easement right-of-way have resulted in considerable friction, leading to a number of letters to various local property owners. The most recent from our lawyers, Baker Newby of Chilliwack, in 2010, 22nd of April 2010, a letter to Emil Anderson Construction on the topic of easement L24. In principle, the rezoning and development proposal is supported. It would reduce the isolation of the area generally and likely offer needed improvements in service due to increased traffic. 3, it states, I do wish to express concerns to the proposed amendments as currently written in reference A. The reference only mentions the L24 easement in passing as an access easement, and the Purdy's logging road easement transition to a trail should lead to Union Bar Road within 21732 Union Bar Road property boundary. This would acknowledge, address, and respect the associated rights of way L24 and L22 as explained at reference B. And thank you for the opportunity to share our concerns. Signed Michael Bodner. Do we have any other submissions from the public at this point, written ones?
There's just a letter or the email from the Fraser Valley Regional District.
Yeah, but that's not an endorsement or that's not a public.
No.
No, it's just for information. Okay, I guess we'll call now from comments from the public. Your worship.
May I comment on the letters?
For sure, yeah, if you'd like, yeah.
Sure. I'll start with Mr. Bodner's. I did speak with Mr. Bodner sometime last week. I can't remember the specific day, but what Mr. Bodner is referring to is you can see this little driveway. This driveway crosses onto our property, has for probably forever. And yes, we did receive a letter from Baker Newby back in about 2010. We realized what it was. We understand his easement rights, and his easement rights will not change with this subdivision. So his use of this road will be protected until he wants to do something different with it. We said we would work with him, and as you can see where it is, it's kind of out of the way of the lots. So at least case thing we would do is work with him to probably fence this so it's clear that this is his easement, his right to go across this little corner of property. And should this continue to be one large lot, whoever we sell it to will be fully advised of his rights and that they cannot extinguish those rights.
Okay, sounds like a pretty good common sense solution.
And the other letter I just saw this afternoon. I went on to Google Maps. I'm not sure where Ms. Rolfe is referring to, but I suspect it's somewhere down here.
I believe so, yeah.
So I believe, looking at the contours and when I've walked the property, that most of our drainage ends up somewhere down here. But through our geotechnical investigation, we will ensure or certainly do our best to not disrupt any of the drainage that might be going that way. Again, we will get geotechnical experts on that to determine what needs to be done or not need to be done, and stay away from creeks. You can see where our home sites are. There's lots of flexibility on these lots. You know, if it just happened that there was a creek that went right through this, obviously that home site would be moved over here. That creek would be protected with proper setbacks, and we would put covenants on the lots if there was any doubt that future homeowners might want to mess around with the creek.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you you, Mr. Jacobs. Now, comments from the public, I'm sure there'll be a few here based on attendance, so one at a time would be great, and if we can get name and address for Ms. Bellingham for the record. Who's the keenest one here tonight?
I'm Susie Shaw. I have 21812 Union Bar Road. My major concern is Union Bar Road. Are all those houses going to have access from Union Bar?
Yes, they are.
Okay, and you said you do upgrades to the road. Will it be a proper 2-lane road with a line down the middle?
This road here,
Union Bar.
we said we would be building these roads here, and these would be to district standards, paved roads with ditches, wouldn't be curb and gutter, wouldn't be sidewalk, because of the rural nature of the property.
Okay, so that's, what about Union Bar Road though? I can't tell which
Coming
one
up.
that is. Coming up Union Bar
Yes.
Road.
That's a District of Hope road.
It's a lane. As it is, it's a very dangerous road, and that's my main concern with that many more vehicles on the road. I mean, I've been run off that road twice. Luckily, I have a 4x4. I was able to drive right back up on it. My niece was run right into the water at the bottom because people come flying up there. There's no lines on the road. They think it's a one-way, their way. And they're on the middle of the road all the time. So that's my huge concern is our road. And I live up the top of it, so.
Right. Yeah, that's,
So you-
those are details we would have to work out with district staff.
So you don't have any plans on fixing Union Bar?
No, it's the District of Hope's road. You know, we, in developing it, we have to work with them, but, no, it's the district's road, so it's not our road. We don't own it, so we can't go and fix it.
Well, if you'd volunteer to, I'm sure it'd be worth it. I wouldn't see that happening, if you're volunteering, but, yeah, but understood.
I ride a bike down there every day.
Yeah, you'll be killed for sure.
Okay.
No, really, that's
Thank you, Ms. Shaw.
my huge concern.
And then, I guess, Mr. Stevens, based on his vertical stance, is...
Yes. Edward Stevens, 21602 Union Bar Road. Holding out, as my neighbor Susie says, and I am your direct neighbor. A few things you haven't pointed out is 2 of the major underground streams feeding the lake go underneath that property, all of it. Also, from the far end of that property, from their property around Union Bar, is also a water course which comes over my property, and I have a waterfall on my property from all the groundwater. The idea you want to put in 12 septic tank fields up there is a little bizarre, as well as drilling well water in the same area. Like my grandfather used to say, the septic tank's too close to the well, and that idea there of not doing Union Bar Road, parts of Union Bar Road are only 12 feet wide. You can't possibly expect 30 more cars a day to start going up and down that road without catastrophe happening. I mean, it's just not even feasible. As far as the lot size or the way it's laid out right now, you know, if you guys are prepared to put in sewer, water, and electrical up there, things that are non-existent, it would alleviate any problems of septic fields and water problems. I mean, you know, right now you're basically barren Canada up there.
Sorry, which I didn't...
I say it's just natural Canada up there right now at the get-go, but there's definitely a lot of work that has and studies that have to be done as far as, you know, getting the public up there safely, because the only way you can possibly widen the Union Bar Road is to go back into the mountainside. That was done back in 1982 when your company actually did the drilling on it, and powder monkeys came up and already widened it 15 feet, but as I say, sections of that road are only 12 to 14 feet wide now. I think for the moment, that's all I have to say. A few of my neighbors have got some other responses though.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Additional comments? Sir?
Hi, my name's Dave Bevitt. I live at, the one just out of, it's the adjacent property there on,
21772.
yeah, we just moved here. 21772 Union Bar Road. So it's the one that's indented, right? Yeah, right in there. No, down to the right. Right there. down
No,
to the left.
over left,
Rectangle.
there.
Right there, that property there. And our only source of water is a spring. So you mentioned drainage and creeks. What about springs, like Ed mentioned, underground water systems, which we rely on when you do your rock removal, never mind the trees, you're gonna be doing drilling, blasting, I presume.
That's correct.
That's what I have a problem with, as well as obviously the road access. On our way here, there was 2 geese and 3 little goslings, and I've seen them commonly on the road. And apparently this year already, there's been 2 run over. So even if no one else was ever to have an incident, you know, human fatalities, with the wildlife is another huge concern. That's what I have to say.
Hi, I'm Debbie, same address, 21772, Debbie Cernoski. And I just wanted to, are you going to do any environmental studies? You talk about this and engineering that. Are you going to do actual environmental studies to see what pumped out septic fields? What, you know, we get a lot of rainfall and things can overflow, and then you've polluted the ground, the surface water, and there's no percolation. It's very dangerous. And the other thing is that going by Thacker Park, Thacker Regional Park, I don't know if you've looked at that, but the road is right beside the park, and yeah, I mean, if you're going to increase traffic by that much, you're just going to destroy the park. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much.
Oh, and you didn't answer my question. Are you going to do any environmental studies?
Yes, we, as part of, I'll address the first gentleman's question, a spring, a creek, it's all about the natural water on the site along with the drainage, so yes, all of that has to be looked at. And that's why we get geotechnical or hydrogeological engineers involved in the process.
So
What about
I guess-
environmental
sorry.
studies? Oh,
Can I comment on that?
Yeah, certainly.
Okay, so let's say they figure, okay, we can do this, and then there's drilling and blasting, and it does affect, say, our park water, so that we don't have water anymore coming out of the spring, or it's reduced to a point where it's not adequate for human consumption or volume for
okay.
you know, household use. Would there be any compensation to provide means for, you know, getting that reinstated in a manner? Like, you can't recreate aqueducts underground, but you might aid people if it's been changed and detrimental to the people that are already here. Would there be some kind of help in, you know, putting in wells or ensuring the life that we
have
already
to look at that, but I think we're getting a little ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
Your property is here.
Yep.
This is your property as well.
Yep.
We won't be, of course, it's your property, we won't be touching that. There will be no drilling and blasting here. To create this road, it will have to be filled. If there is water that's draining across your property, we'll have to put in proper culverts to deal with that. Any drilling and blasting would start over here. This road is already built, so there would be no drilling and blasting along there.
Right.
Any drilling and blasting would be here, which is hundreds of meters from your property. We do drilling and blasting all the time for highways and your pipelines. We can ensure that any vibrations here would not affect the property over there. Springs will vary depending upon how much rainfall there is, how dry the season is. So, you know, without us doing anything, your spring will go up and down depending upon the season, depending upon the rainfall. But that's why we'll hire the geotechnical engineers, the hydrogeologists, to determine, you know, your property's here, so based on, you can see the contours, water runs downhill, that's the easiest way. So I'm suspecting that the water for your property is coming down somewhere here.
That's not correct. It's not groundwater, it's a spring. I had 5 acres on Vancouver Island, and water came up, and that water came up from Mount Baker. It went under the ocean and came up. our spring water comes up out of a rock. So it isn't coming down, it's coming up. So when you crack rock, it will alter those things. Not necessarily ours, but that's just a question. That's
Yeah, no, and just for the record, I am a civil engineer, have dealt with this before. So your water, yes, may be bubbling out of here, but it has to fall from the sky somewhere here, uphill of your property, or it can't get there.
No. Like I said, our water that we had over in Vancouver Island came from Mount Baker, underneath the ocean. It didn't fall from the skies. Water coming up from a spring in the ground doesn't come from the surface of the water.
All water starts from the sky, sir.
From somewhere, yes,
Yes.
just like Mount Baker on the other side of the ocean for Vancouver Island.
Yeah, I think obviously a proper water management study would.
Yes,
Yeah.
and as far as, when you say environment, I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to. You're talking about mostly water, septic fields?
I'm talking about the impact on the wildlife, and in particularly Thacker Park. Yeah,
Thacker Park,
yeah.
which we won't be adjusting the road along Thacker Park, so I'm not sure
Well,
what the impact would
the
be.
increased volume of traffic and the wildlife there. I mean, if you don't think that'll have an impact, I don't understand how you can come
Well,
up with
we
assumptions.
haven't done a traffic study, but from my recollection of the site is Union Bar Road turns into a forestry road here.
No, Union Bar, it's down low, and the road is like meters from the marshlands.
Yes, no, I'm
Yeah.
familiar with that. But my point is, yes, Union Bar down here is along the marshland.
Yeah,
This Union Bar Road turns into forestry road here, which I believe is open to the public. So there is no restriction on the amount of traffic that can go on that road now. And we're not, we're adding about equal the number of home sites that are up here. We're not adding 200 homes, we're not adding a huge development. So I don't know how many people use this road to access Mount Ogilvy and beyond. But we, and I think the district has no control over who uses that road.
So the increase would be about 100%.
At least 100%.
yeah.
It could be, it would depend on exactly how many homes and how many vehicles are up there.
Yeah, the minimum would be about 100%, or it could be more.
Yeah,
Well, it may be 100% of the residents that are there,
Yeah.
but we don't know how many people use this road
yes,
to
but
get to the,
Yeah.
to
Well,
the
we do
forestry.
know, we live up
Okay,
there.
I think that was a good topic to address, so,
I have another question.
okay.
That road that you plan to put up right beside our property, well, we moved into the property because there were no street lights. At night, it was dark, you could see the stars. Is that going to change?
Sure is. Sure is. They said they're gonna build road
Okay,
lights and everything.
unless you've stood up and identified yourself one at a time.
Can you move that road over to the other side of the property?
Mr. Jacobs?
We can certainly look at it, and I say that because we haven't done the engineering. The reason that it was put here is this is the highest point on Union Bar Road, and this road is above Union Bar Road, so we need to keep as flat a grade as we can. I don't know if it will work from here. We could certainly look at it. What we could do is look at some landscaping barrier along the side of the road. Whether there are street lights or not right there, that's really a District of Hope requirement, and I don't know those particulars yet. If there aren't street lights required along here and you don't want them, why would we put them in? But if they're required by the district, then we'd be required to put them in.
Yeah, because I live right next door, I am intimately familiar with that, and really, the way that you've got that drawn is pretty much the only way it can go. Just, as my arm would gesture to simulate that map, as it comes down and then does the curve, this side of that line that's coming down, there's a quite quickly a very large ravine of 100 feet plus from the Purdy's logging road and towards Union Bar. So it's really got to be like you've got it drawn. So I don't see much other. I think my wife is mainly pointing out that as this is developed, it will drastically change our property. Now, you know, things happen, that's the way it goes, if it does go that way, but it isn't, you know, it will drastically change our property, probably more than anyone else, because we are right next door, and our water is a spring, so.
So, Mr. Jacobs, to address that point, you've indicated you have some willingness there to put in some landscaping barriers or some noise or light barrier for the folks next door.
I doubt it would be a noise barrier, but we could certainly work with the neighbor to plant some trees. When we do this, the last thing we want to do is to disturb existing neighbors. We want to work with them, but, you know, again, it's not that we came in and purchased this property 2 weeks ago to go and do development. We've owned this property since the 1970s, paid our taxes every year since then, and now seems to be the time to do something with it.
In those days, it was $250.
Understood. Yeah. Fair enough, comment, Mr. Jacobs. Sir?
My name is Joe Bowman, Joseph Bowman, and I live at 21701 Union Bar Road, which is the property that is at the top of the map there, where that curved part of the property there.
This?
No, keep coming toward yourself.
Down the
There,
road.
right there.
Okay.
That property there. I mean, I'm not against progress necessarily, but there's an awful lot of impact. Possibly, if it happens, I might find some positive impact for us, but there'd definitely be a lot of negative impact in the developing. Almost for sure, the city will require lights in there, which, like the lady said, just completely changes our style of life. Not that anyone cares, but it does. There is a large population of owls up there, not spotted owls that I know of, but a large population of barn owls that we enjoy that use that forest a lot. They're likely to leave, which, you know, maybe nobody cares about, but it does affect us, and I care about it. Now, water, and there are just, I think, 10 residencies up there now, so we're talking 12 to 15 more, so it's over a 100% growth in traffic, and then likely, being that these will be probably, you know, we're looking at country residential, it's going to be like probably 2 cars, you know, 2 family cars. So we're looking, you know, really, we're talking 30 more vehicles probably easily using that little road. So then that road doesn't become feasible to use. Who pays for building a new one? Because there will be a new road. A new road will be built, and my taxes are pretty high already, and I think everybody here who's a homeowner, our taxes are
Pretty crazy.
our tax rates are very high, especially considering the kind of services we get, and the fact that we also pay for utilities on top of it, which doesn't seem to be a tax, but is. So we're already paying a lot of money in taxes, and then who's going to pay for that road? Because the road will have to be fixed. That road will not sustain that much more traffic. And we know how many people use Mount Ogilvy because we live there, and there's a few ATVers that come up. And okay, but now to address the water, I punched a well 210 feet deep to get water. Ford Morgan punched about a 300-foot well. Up at the top of the hill, Fred DeGreen and Bill up there, their wells are 200, 300 feet deep. The guy who drilled the well for me, it's Al Fields. He's one of the top drillers in Western Canada. And when I talked to him about it, he said, well, we got water there, we got a flow of 3 to 4 gallons a minute, but we don't know what that means. We don't know how much water's down there, we don't know where it's coming from. We don't know if this is a small aquifer being fed by a big one, or a big one being fed by a little one. So now you're going to have to punch 12 to 15 more 300-foot deep holes into those aquifers, and we don't know. No one knows, and your geotechnical engineers cannot know what's down there. You can't possibly know or predict how that would affect any of our water, the quantity of it or the quality of it. And then 12 to 15 new septic fields up high, above the lake and above Ed's property, I mean, it's a massive, for the people living up there. For the rest of Hope, maybe not much, although probably if more people in Hope knew, I'm kind of sorry I didn't do more about, just not necessarily opposing it, but getting more people to understand what's happening. It's just a massive impact for the people living up there, massive. And like I say, I don't know, I don't want to stand here and wave a placard and say stop, 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 but it isn't a real appealing idea to me. I suppose if and when it happens, we'll find some positives, but our whole lifestyle will change. Our whole lifestyle's changing. We've been paying taxes since we moved here. Like Ed said, the property taxes on that probably haven't been that great since 2000 or 1970. But yeah, I don't know. I'm starting to repeat, but it's huge. This is huge.
Thank you, sir. Additional comments?
Can I ask, Mr. Mayor, what the town is willing to do if they get the go-ahead for this, as far as widening the road or providing sewer and water up there?
Well, we haven't had the discussion yet. The
No.
purpose of this meeting is
Yeah.
to hear public sentiment. And
I appreciate that. No, I just
there.
wondered whether or not there's any sort of town feeling on what is about to happen, or, you know, but if we're ahead of the game, that's fine. I mean, this is what it's all about. But, you know, our concerns are the fact that one of the people here, sitting here, I think has been on the lake the longest, Marie, she still gets her water from the lake. One of the last team.
Yeah, you
But that's a known fact around here.
You shouldn't have brought that one up.
The fact is that if you're gonna have a dozen or more septic fields pumping into that lake's gonna turn green. There's no doubt about it. With the water, like I say, 2 major underground creeks come into the lake on that piece of their property. They're the last places on the lake to freeze, and you can see them plain as day when the ice starts to hit the lake, because you have the soft water where the 2 creeks underneath there come into that lake. And of course, they're also the first 2 areas to melt away too when the spring thaw comes. So all that water is coming out totally underneath those pieces of property. And if they're going to be fed by, as what they said, with putting in 12 different septic fields, it's not going to be good for the lake or the people who drink out of it.
Well, I think one of the things we have to think of as well is that the septic field that is engineered to current standards is not a septic field that came from the 50s or 60s. It used to be you dig a hole, put some gravel in it, you got a septic field. That's not the case now. The health standards are so restrictive and so prescriptive in what is required that you know, a disaster with a previous septic field is not a disaster you're going to get from a new certified septic system, because I think the regulatory authorities recognize that, you know, if you do this wrong, you have a huge impact. So obviously proper water management study is important, and you know, if the project does go ahead, proper septic systems would be necessary, not a hodgepodge of you know, some primitive style that was used in the past kind of thing.
Yeah, just another thing, we're talking, again, to come back to the road, like we said, with the wildlife down there, with the narrowness of the road in spots and everything else. Okay, we're gonna have logging through the summer, so we're gonna have now logging trucks on it. Then to construct that many homes, I'm assuming people are probably gonna be paying pretty good money for this if you're talking about the kind of your development you're talking about, if you're gonna be putting in those wells. My well cost me over $20,000, so 12 wells, that's a lot of money, plus the septic. So I know the septic field right now, if I wanted to look at putting a new one in, I'm probably looking at $50,000 the way they've got them engineered. I think the mayor's right that they are much better, but they cost a lot. So these aren't going to be little homes. So now we've got construction vehicles for the next few years while 12, 15 homes are built coming up and down that road. So we're talking about
Logging trucks.
logging trucks, construction vehicles, you know, lumber trucks, tradespeople, new people. The road is gonna have, it's gonna have a massive impact on that road, and you know, we all know what's gonna happen. In a year, as soon as it starts, a year later, it's gonna be, we have to rebuild Union Bar Road. We have to rebuild it. And our already, what I don't think exaggerate in saying, exorbitant taxes are gonna go up again. And I don't think anybody wants to see that. And, you know, we want people to move to Hope. If I was looking now at moving to Hope, I'd go, well, I don't want to see my tax bill. And it's not very attractive.
Well, I think, and this is not to pick a side on this issue, but I think a couple of things we all have to keep in mind is it's been clearly identified that there's a chronic housing shortage in Hope. Like it's very difficult to get places, period. The other thing is, unless, and I'll pick myself as an example, I live next to a place, across the street there's a vacant fee simple piece of property which has been vacant for, well, since I guess Hope was founded. And I hope and pray that place never gets developed, but I have to be realistic. Someone is paying tax on it, and when that family decides that there's going to be homes going in, I'm certainly not going to be all that excited about it, but since I don't own the property, I kind of have a limited say in what happens there. So, you know, we have to obviously address these important concerns regarding water management and making sure that septic systems don't have an impact, but I think we have to also take a holistic approach in how the community has to grow to some extent, and also the fact that our homes came from vacant land at some point too. The reason we have homes is because obviously the land that we're on was developed at some point too, and I'm sure the wildlife wasn't exactly excited about that concept, and I'm sure the neighbors, if any, at that time in the area were probably a little excited about that as well. So just as a council, it's obviously an awkward spot here because many people in the community don't want to see any growth at all. It's perfect. I mean, demolish a few homes would be a good plan for, you know, but this is one of these awkward issues for council to deal with. We have to be respectful of existing taxpayers, but we also have to look at what's been identified in the future community plan. We need growth in the community. We need to attract employment, and keeping the housing stock the same won't facilitate that. So just food for thought. Now, Mr. Gardner?
My name is Keith Gardner, and I've lived here just about as long as Anderson's construction has been around. I would just like to say that I don't think we as citizens can stop development. You know, there's concern about Union Bar Road, but that is really the council's concern, and that's why you have development cost bylaws, so you can fix that road up for this development. I think, personally, and I've dealt with knowing the Anderson family all my life, you will never get a better neighbor. You know, if they sell it to somebody else, you could be in a lot worse scenario. They'll go out of their way to help you do things. So for that, I am for the development. I have one concern though, and that is the septic tanks. When I was mayor here for 20 years, across where I have a home now, across the lake from where you are, your development is like, we were closing the lake down. It was so polluted because of septic tanks, because of the drainage. The taxpayers spent $500 to $1 million at that time to put sewer down there. Otherwise, the lake would have been closed. None of us would have had the enjoyment of the lake. And it did, and there was no added cost to any homeowner on the lake at that time. The total district paid for that sewer. Wasn't added. $500 a year to your property unit, so everybody paid. So we have to be good neighbors. We have to do these. I have a concern though, because once this development gets going, and I'm all for it. I think we need to have development in our community. We need to get the tax base down. So that I'm not happy with my taxes either. I got business here. Unbelievable taxes. So we need more development to get our tax base higher, to get our taxes lower. I am a little concerned though that we're going to start allowing, again, which we did 50 years ago, septic tanks around the lake. I think there are ways you can buy probably what you just said on your septic tank to build a septic tank you could probably put a small sewer treatment plant on that property, run all the sewer into it, then what's going in the lake will be 95 or 98% pure water. We're not polluting on it. Because once this gets started, there's a lot of vacant land on that side. Once this gets started, we're going to have more and more development. Right? And I think we need that here. Sure. And I think the Union Bar Road will be, that's why we have the development cost bylaws, in order to fix up the access to development like this. So that's the town's responsibility to fix the road up. In my opinion, that's what we did when I was mayor here for 20 years. So I don't think because it may change your lifestyle and your property a little bit that we can say no to it. Because the guy, before you came, the guy behind there probably didn't want you there either, because you're going to change his lifestyle. So we can't make decisions that way. And I want to repeat, you'll never, ever, in all my experience, find a better neighbor than Anderson Construction. They'll go out of the way to make you happy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gardner. And I think a good point about the number of you brought up points about property taxes and the road had to be upgraded in the future and so on and so forth. Valid points. I think the point we have to focus on as well, these are obviously going to be a fairly high-end homes, I would assume, based on property size and location. So they'll obviously be paying a pretty penny of property taxes, and obviously those taxes would be thrown in the general pool and would facilitate future infrastructure investments. So they certainly wouldn't be squatting on that property. They'd be paying their fair share of taxes to add to the kitty, so to speak. So additional comments? There's no time limit here. We just want to make sure everyone is heard and respected. So.
Hi, yeah, I just wanted to ask you, Mr. Jenkins, if would you consider putting a smaller subdivision up there? Like, does it have to be 12? Does it have to be 15? Like, could the dollar value that you're seeking to get out of this, could it come down a little bit and be a little more urban, rural, sorry?
We've already addressed that in that the area of the property with 1 hectare sites. I'd have to look at my notes, but I think that we could do 25 1 hectare lots up there. Mr. Gill may know
Your worship, through you, for the raw land calculation, based on the CR1 subdivision, technically could permit 23 lots. So it is a reduced number as it is proposed.
Yeah, we addressed that out of the gate, knowing that this is a rural, and like I say, we don't know. We said the range of 12 to 15. I guess I can say here for sure we will not go over 15. We would be allowed to under the zoning, but I'll give you our company's word today. It will not be more than 15 home sites, even though when the rezoning goes forward, we would be allowed to do more. So 15 will be a cap that we will self-impose. But whether we get 15, 14, 13, 12, or 11, I don't know at this stage. I can reinforce the mayor's comments that septic systems designed today, 2017, are vastly superior to what you're all familiar with from the 50s, 60s, 70s, even 80s. Mr. Gardner, referenced treatment plants. Yes, there are self-contained treatment plants for development like this, but there are also individual treatment plants. Through our road construction business, we have put a few of those in various situations. I haven't looked at the details of it yet for this site, but certainly all of those things will be looked at in conjunction with the expertise in our firm and with the consulting engineers that we will hire to do that. So, what we will not do, as our company has been, a very strong member and supporter of this community since 1945. The last thing we want is our legacy detracted that because of this development, we have polluted Cockawell Lake. I can assure you that that will not happen. This development won't proceed if there's a chance that we would pollute Cockawell Lake. There are all those engineered solutions. I don't know all those details because basically, we don't get the cart ahead of the horse. The first step is to come here and find that the District of Hope supports this rezoning. If you don't support the rezoning, then we have to look at what other uses there are for the property.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jacobs. Sir?
Oh, yeah, Mr. Mayor, I just want to clarify, I'm not opposed to development, and I agree with the mayor that this is good to have development to increase the tax base. And I have nothing against Emil Anderson, and I think what Mr. Garner says is probably true. And so I'm, you know, I think my main concern, and again, I don't expect the City of Hope to develop itself around my lifestyle. You know, I made that statement, and that's just a statement. I don't expect the development of the town of Hope to cater to that. The thing that does concern me, though, is the water. That's what concerns me, and I do think that you're sincere with what you say, and that you people are going to do what you can do, but that's a concern. And also, as Susie said, my neighbor, Mrs. Shaw, in the meantime, there is, with all of this development, all of those trucks, all of that road is tricky now. That road is tricky now. I go up and down that road, and there are people who just don't pay attention. There's little pullouts, and you're coming along, and they just go right past their pullout and push you over onto the edge of the road. And it's hard to imagine with all those trucks that there won't be some sort of a disaster. Again, I don't mean that to be anti-development or anti-Emil Anderson or anything else. I just see two really key things for me and for all of my neighbors there is the effect of the water. I agree about the septics, the way septics are done. I don't think it's going to be a pollution problem from the septics, but the possible impact on our water from 15 wells being drilled there, I think is very possible, maybe likely, and until the road does get constructed, possibly that is part of our development, all that, and yes, that's fine. But until that is done, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 years from now, what a debacle it'll be on that road trying to move on it. So
And on a final note, if I may.
Okay, I think, let's make sure we hit some fresh territory.
Yeah, well, this is it. I say on the final note, being Union Bar, Mr. Mayor, I believe you on record have the geotechs that were done on our section of road here in the last 5 years because of the groundwater situation coming down off the mountainside, and I'm talking between my place and the Suckers Creek at the bottom. If you've driven up there, the road is cracking. It is sloughing down on my side of the property because of the underground water problems that are there now. I mean, parts of the road are at a list like this, and as I say, going up the road, of course, that's on the lake side for us driving up. You know, you're tilting like this right now, going around some of them very tight corners. It's not only right now with what they're talking about the heavy traffic area, but even right now, all this trucking movement is a continuation right now of the road giving way. And it would have to be brought up to some sort of standard, even repaired, you know, should this start. And like I say, I'm not against it either as far as development and coming up to the future and everything. I'm just concerned about what we've got to get in. And like I say, the road, we all know it, I've measured it, there's 12-foot areas, there's 14-foot areas. That's thinner than 2 parking spaces at the local save-on. So when you're going around with that kind of tight corners and what these people are concerned about, and the fact that the geotechs that came up for the town, because this is, like I say, 4 or 5 years ago, and put in a report about why the road was cracking and breaking away. And it's breaking away, like I say, on the downside of my property, because for me, anybody on that road, it's a 200 foot drop down into the lake. So, and you're rolling when you go.
Yeah. Good, thank you, sir. And Councillor Smith, did you have a...
Just a comment, if this development did or does not go through, Union Bar Road could potentially be used through the Forest Service Road, because there's an access through it, say up the road on the Forest Service Road, the logging that could come out of that. It hasn't happened much in the last over the last 5 years, but that road can be heavily used for forestry in the next little while as well. So it is something that we need to look at as district, of making sure it's gonna be good for everybody, especially with a little bit more added properties into it. I think this is good as well. The property tax that England Anderson Construction probably pays on these properties now are very minute compared to what these properties will be valued at once development is taken through. So that is another avenue for us to, hey, once that goes through and we're getting the tax base from it, we have to put into the road section part of it. But I think people need to realize as well too, is if England Anderson Construction, this doesn't go through, and they, as Mr. Jacobs has stated before, they have to look at something else to do with the property, they could just clear cut the property as well and make that an option to say, well, let's sell the timber off of it and we'll let it sit at their land. So I think we gotta be careful on what we wanna do and don't wanna do. And then, I know Mr. Jacobs said they don't wanna clear cut it, but if they can't get money out of development, that could be an option for them as well.
Your Worship, I'd just like to address one of the concerns from the gentleman over there. Through construction, anybody who's there hauling gravel or servicing the site, they will be working for us. They'll be receiving a paycheck from us. We've done this before in our other developments in the Okanagan. We can self-impose a speed limit. So if the speed limit there is 50 kilometers an hour, we can impose that every vehicle that's working for us cannot drive faster than 30 kilometers an hour, or they'll be fired. And we've done that successfully before. So we can control the traffic that works for us. We can't control your neighbors and other people who are going out to use the forestry road, but we have successfully reduced, truck traffic like that. We are willing also to work with the District of Hope. The logging road goes all the way out to Othello Road, very close to the Coquihalla Highway. If we could obtain permission and could haul trees out that way, we would certainly look to do that. The other option would be somehow to haul the trees down to the Fraser River, where I think they used to go decades ago and were actually put in the river. So we're willing to look at all those options. As we said earlier, we want to create the least amount of disruption to the neighbors up there that we can. There will be disruption, there's no question about that, but we will work with you to minimize all that at whatever means we can. We only own this piece of property. District of Hope owns the roads. We don't know who controls the logging road right away now, all the way over to Othello Road and near the Coquihalla, but we're willing to explore those things and look at whether that would be an option to reduce traffic that comes up the windy part of Union Bar Road.
So I think one of the things council has to look at as well in this, as we deliberate on this here in the near future, is sometimes from a community impact point of view, it's kind of handy to have some control over what happens sooner than later, because if this property is liquidated as one parcel and sold to another company or individual or what have you, the plans might not be the same, shall we say. So, extensive tree removal, very different plans that are out of, some of which could be out of the district's hands, would be potentially very risky for the area. I think Mr. Gardner's comments are good ones. I think you'd have to look long and hard, and you still probably wouldn't find anything that is negative about England Anderson Construction, because they have been a very good community steward in our area for many years. So, it's obviously it wouldn't make sense for them to do a botched job of a development and hurt the community in any way that would not reflect well on their legacy. So I think those are valid points to digest. And Councillor Croft, you can take it away.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. So, thank you for coming and
Well,
bringing
we're not finished yet. We have somebody.
Sorry. Can
But Councillor Croft is speaking,
okay,
so that's the scoop.
Sorry. So anyhow, the bottom line is that I see that you've got a timeline here. And I'm just wondering, in your timeline, does that mean that, for example, let's say, for example, it's proceeded, I just kind of want to get it in my mind straight here. If it proceeded and you did the rezoning, then you do your selective logging, and then you do your road works and your home site prep. At that point, are you doing everything together? When I say that, I mean each lot is going to be done at the same time, so all the development has to happen at first, your log selection has to happen for all the lots. And then when the actual building comes, does all of that happen for all of the lots at the same time? Or do you pick, let's say, 5 now and 5 next year? Like, how does that work?
Those are detailed questions I can't give you an exact answer on. Certainly the concept right now would be to go in and selectively log the majority of the property. And I'll put that to the, so the key area that we need to get a better handle on is this road. Right now this road, from what I walked, it has significant rot right here. But we've come to this point because this is the highest point on the logging road. So we need to get uphill, so we come to the highest point on the road so that this is less steep as possible. But I can tell you for sure there will be some drilling and blasting in rock work to make this road work. So we would come in, we would selectively log in here, we would also selectively log, there are some very large trees on the property, there's no and ifs or buts. Some of them, I'm not a forester, some of them may be nearing the end of their life. They are harvestable now, so it would be prudent to take some of them at this time. As far as, would we take every tree right away? I doubt it. We would go in, open up the property, we would do what's economic for, we would deal with a professional logging company. We are not loggers. We will not be doing our own logging. We'll be working with local loggers to select trees that are harvestable, that have a demand in the market. But I suspect we will probably do selective logging 2 or 3 or even 4 times on the property. Whether we build this part of the road and come just to here as a first phase, I haven't gone through the economics of the project yet to determine, maybe we do that. This is a very short piece of road, not really expensive to build. This road is essentially built, it needs a little bit of fix-up. So if we happen, we also are in the asphalt business, we happen to have our asphalt plant here for other things. Maybe we come in, we pave the road just to here, leave that for a second phase. Could go that way, or if we do our market research, as we've heard from the mayor today, and the research that we've done is there's a real shortage of lots for sale to build home sites on in Hope. If the market's hot, you want to strike while the market is hot. So we have the resources and the capability to come in and build all of this road in a number of months. I don't know whether that's 3 months or 6 months, but so I can't give you a definitive answer yet. But both of those are possibilities. But however we do it, we would look to minimize the impact on existing residents. And if we did do it as a couple of phases, then we have more residents potentially living here as we do the next phase. So there's those dynamics you have to consider when you're doing a phase development.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Well, you helped build Coquihalla in under a year. I think you're probably would be a big project at all.
That's right.
Now, Mr. Gill, quick question. The question is, now the zoning allows for a higher density than is being requested by Mr. Jacobs, correct?
That is correct.
So the question would be, Mr. Jacobs has indicated that 15 lot subdivision is the maximum density he's going for on behalf of his company. The question would be, now obviously he's an honorable man, that's his style, but the question is, how can we as a community, if we make a decision based on 15 lots, how can we lock that in so that if there's changes, shall we say, that we're sticking to the 15 lots?
Your worship, there's a certain avenue through, if it's going to be voluntary, and through Mr. Jacobs here, we can put a voluntary covenant on the property title, which would limit the subdivision or development to 15 lots.
So I guess the question, and not to put you on the spot here, but there seems to be an indication, a commitment from you that 15 lots is kind of it.
I've made that public statement,
Yeah.
Your Worship, and we keep our word.
Yeah.
So what Mr. Gill is referring to, I believe, is the 219 covenant, which we've entered into before.
Yeah.
So we would be prepared to enter into the 219 covenant, which would assure you, the district, that there would be no more than 15 lots on this property. As well, we can only subdivide this if the approving officer will sign off on our plan. So if we have given our commitment of 15 and we come in with 16, Mr. Gill can say to you, no, you made a public commitment on May 23rd that you'd only do 15 lots, I won't approve this. So you really, we would sign that covenant, but Mr. Gill also has the ability to turn down our subdivision. So you're always in control as the district.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that for the sake of folks here that might think it's going to, you know, if, say you do something else in the future here and decide to travel the world and do what have you, and someone else is managing the company, you might...
Your worship,
Yeah.
if I have made that commitment on behalf of the company,
Yeah.
that commitment lives with the company
Yeah.
if I'm not here as well. So that's how our company has done business since its founding by Emil Anderson back in the 1930s. So what I say here today binds the company as well as my personal word.
Yeah, no, understood. I just wanted to make sure that everyone's on the same page here, so. Okay, sir? Fresh material?
Yes, just
Okay.
one last comment. And after hearing what has been said here, I'm hoping that council makes a wise decision, and I also believe that this will go forward. But with, sorry, Donna?
Councilor Crop, yeah?
Yeah, with what you were saying, one of your main concerns was with time. And I have one with regards to time. And I heard once a humorous thing from somebody making fun of the Green Party, or it was from them themselves years ago. I don't know, maybe George Carlin, somebody. To create work, we're going to change the direction of flow of traffic. And it'll create all kinds of new work. But so that it doesn't confuse everybody, we're only going to do the big trucks first. So with that said, in your timeline, the first thing is logging. Logging trucks going up and down our road is, I think everybody gets the point there. Like if there was to be any work done on that road, not after logging trucks, before logging trucks. That's all I was saying.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gill?
Your worship, I would like to address one item. To keep in mind that the zone right now of the property is limited use and rural use. It already allows for forestry, the activity of extracting timber or merchantable timber without public consultation. So to keep in mind that there is other sort of uses on that lot currently. With this rezoning, it would take those uses away in the sense of heavy-duty sort of forestry or mining works.
Yeah. Yeah, mitigate impact. Okay, now I think to be respectful to the next issue, since we have an additional issue here for the public hearing, I would like to suggest we move on to the Cockle Lake Road part of the public hearing. That is, everyone's amenable, because I think we got some fairly good mileage here. Sir?
I just had one question of...
Pertaining to Union Bar issue?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, could I slip that one in? I know,
name and address, please.
Oh, Brian McCormick, 66867 Cockle Lake Road. I'm here for a different part of the program, but I have a question regarding this. I see that the designation of the properties will be CR1 on your subdivision. Is there an allowance to maybe make it, say, a CR1T? The official community plan promotes and wants to see densification. So if these properties are CR1, after they've been sold, is there an opportunity for the owners to apply for a rezoning of their property to say an R, like similar to an RS1T, where you would have maybe an on-site suite or a carriage house, something like that, which would increase the densification and the water usage. It would increase the septic issues. So my question is there an opportunity to change the zoning to increase the densification?
I mean, anyone can apply to rezone a property at any time. It's
So,
the council that
okay,
decides.
so all of these properties then could theoretically become from 15 to, you'd have an even more increased number of people on the area. That's just what I'm asking. It's, they're talking about 15 homes.
Your worship, in the official community plan, we're going with the rural standard, which is CR1 zone and CR1 designation. If anybody wanted to change the lot to an RS1T, you still have to go through an urban suburban rezoning, and then also, or land use designation change and a rezoning. The likelihood would be unlikely in the sense that there is no sewer or water out in the area. Most of the RS1 zone lots, there are anomalies within the municipality as well that are RS1 but have only one or the other service available. But in this case, as to what Mr. McCormick's saying, the likelihood would be unlikely.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good. Now, let's move on to,
Right?
yeah,
Sorry, Dave, one question.
name and address, please.
66906 Congo Lake Road. I guess I'm touching on Molasses property here. I didn't realize this development was this close to me. I thought it was far to the north. So I'm just wondering, is this all Molasses property?
Yes, it is. So we own.
I'm the next property right immediately.
It's two parcels. This is the one parcel, and Mr. Gill can give you which address that one is.
21692.
This is a 5-acre parcel that our company purchased in around 2005. And then the larger parcel, which is, yeah. Sorry, I don't know the areas by heart. The big parcel, okay, the smaller parcel, 2.1 hectares right here, which is 5 acres. And the larger parcel. Is 22.1 hectares, which divided by 2.4 is about 50 acres. So, yes, so we have, the larger parcel, the 50 acres, we've owned since the 1970s.
50 or I was 77 there.
It would be 50 plus, This is a separate 5-acre parcel right now. It did have a house on it that burnt down 15 years ago, I believe. When we bought it, there was no home on it. And then the other parcel has remained vacant since we purchased it in the 1970s.
So erosion across the slough there at the top on Unibar Road.
Off Unibar Road,
Is
yes.
it bridge that then or culvert it or?
One of the other, whatever we're required to do to preserve the drainage and not affect the water that comes from the neighbor's property. So I don't know whether that will be culverts or whether, I doubt it would be a bridge.
And then the logging road grade's gonna be a 2-lane road.
Correct. It basically exists already. That road, you know, is very hard. It had heavy logging trucks run over it forever. It basically just needs a lift of gravel and some asphalt and a little bit of ditching, and it will more than meet the District of Hope road standards.
And they were able to take over that from Purdy's logging then?
Yeah, what's interesting is this road is on title on the 5-acre parcel, but it is not on title on our large property. I'm not sure why it isn't. So we don't have to deal with any rights with the Purdy's easement because it's not entitled to the large property.
It's their property.
No, it's our property.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether we may have purchased this land from Purdy's logging. And if we did, that may be why there wasn't an easement on title on this property. So we looked at the title, and for some reason, there isn't an easement on title across our property. So that means we own this road and what's there right now because it's on our property.
Good thing.
You do know, Mr. Mayor, that that road is entitled or labeled as Union Bar Road? I get that off of the maps that TELUS uses.
Yeah,
That-
well, not everything that's in writing you have to do.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you can't believe everything that's in writing. Sometimes things are mistaken.
Could you point
Yeah.
out exactly which pieces there are gonna have, and how many houses, like where they're, sort of the idea of what you're going to do?
Sure. So we would build a road off of Union Bar Road.
Is there gonna be a house on that one?
Yes, there will be.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
that's one,
Yeah, there'll be a house in here.
okay,
Then the road, this is the existing logging road.
Right.
We'll just be upgrading it. So we're looking at one house on a property here, which would have a driveway off of Union Bar Road. Somewhere on this large parcel, this is where there is a big drainage area there. Not sure where, there's a big rock profile here. Perhaps it comes in here, perhaps this line gets adjusted a bit and there's two driveways off there. But those are details we need to work through. Then this road carries on down here, one home site here. I know this is a beautiful home site right there. That one's very easy, the ground is quite flat there, that's buildable without doing any work to it. Then we would create this road, this cul-de-sac road, which would go up the hill, and there would be a driveway here to a home site somewhat in this vicinity. A driveway up here, we've selected a home site there because it's a flatter piece of ground, it's a little higher, it would be a view property. And then the driveways off here to that home site, a driveway off the cul-de-sac to a home site somewhere in here. Because of the steepness of the terrain here, we're unlikely to push a house up there. Maybe there's one more home up here, maybe there isn't, we don't know that until we do the detail work. And then for, we got a little bit of an anomaly here, right now it shows this would be accessed from here. That really doesn't work with the topography, so we're probably adjusting this cul-de-sac, adjusting these lot boundaries, so to get over to that home site, and then straight driveway here, here, here. That's essentially how, but as I've said all along, there's a lot of engineering, a lot of design work that has to happen, and it will be done right. And the District of Hope will have to review all of that, and if they don't have the expertise in-house, I'm sure they'll obtain expertise to check our experts if they need to.
oh, just a comment, so on our property, there'll be 3 new homes right on the border of our property, and that will have an impact. And I don't know how positive that can be to the water supply, to the septic, to the wildlife.
Yeah, everybody's saying that.
So one home would be here, this home would be downstream of your property.
Yeah,
Home up here is upstream, but the water flow, I don't believe, can go that way because that's against the contours of the land. And this property here, again, with the contours of the land, the water's gonna wanna drain that way, so.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, it's more the spring water that.
Well, I think we have to make sure that we focus on the fact that any development will have to involve proper engineering studies. And the good news is Emil Anderson has the resources to pay for those and hire the right folks to do that. It's not a fly-by-nighter developer, so it's a good thing, I guess. So, sir, did we finish off what you bring up there?
Another concern I got, we look across the lake at that big clear cut that I'm sure you see from the Hope side too. Now, wasn't that supposed to be developed land too? I thought they were putting homes up there. What happened to that?
Well, I think what we're, the neat part about this is this would control the amount of trees coming down, because if it's a subdivision that has maximum 15 sites, and that trees come down to prepare for the proper road with building sites and so on, there's still gonna be a lot of greenery there. There's not gonna be a big gravel pit, so to speak,
Yeah.
so that's.
It's just unfortunate, we look across the lake and it's just.
Yeah, that's an ugly
Yeah.
situation there, for sure. So maybe we could do something as a community control this. Okay. Is everyone okay moving on to the 66897 Cockle Lake Road issue? I'm sure there's some folks here that want to speak to that are getting a little antsy here. Mr. Gill, could we get you to, thank you for coming, Mr. Jacobs. Mr. Gill, could we get you to introduce the rezoning application here for 66897 Cockle Lake Road from single-family residential zone to single-family residential with secondary suites?
Your worship, through you, on March 27, 2017, a geotechnical hazard development permit went before council in order for the owner to proceed with the construction of a single-family dwelling. The owner would like to include a secondary suite for a family member within that dwelling, and therefore requires this rezoning to proceed.
Okay. Is the proponent here tonight? Okay, just checking, making sure we don't exclude anyone here. Now, is anyone interested in speaking to this particular issue? Oh, sir.
Ian
Name and
McRitchie,
address.
6687 Cockle Lake Road. I'm immediately next door to, on the east side.
Your address again?
66857 Cockle Lake Road. I don't really have a objection to them building this property. I have a couple of concerns that I've been there for 15 years, and we've had a water problem that came off in the winter time, and we had, so the drainage has to be maintained when it comes down the road. It follows the curve of the hillside there, sort of thing. The other thing I want to mention is when they surveyed this property last fall, it showed up where the road is supposed to be. The way the road is situated right now, when you drive off the end of the road and down to the gate, you're half on my property. There is a huge rock that is to the north there, and the road is supposed to be there. I think in the 50s when they put it, they fudged it and just left the rock there. And I do have a photograph here. This is
pertaining to 66897 Cockle Lake Road?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is, you can see there's a survey, there's a pink mark right here in front of the gate. That is the corner of my property. The road should be to the north of that. So that's this is a picture. This is the size of the rock that we're dealing with here. So I just
pass that on to Mr. Gill, maybe.
Yeah.
Your worship, as per, let's say, road situations that come up like this, there are other areas within Hope where we assume where the road is, but it isn't, and it sometimes falls on property line, and vice versa, where private property is on district road. The only thing that I can add to this conversation is, if the district has been maintaining it, I guess under the Highways Act, it becomes a Section 4 road. It becomes a part of the road dedication. However, I can probably have Kevin sort of chime in on this as well, sort of to give us a little bit more of a...
Okay.
Certainly, Your Worship, if there is an encroachment of the existing road on this gentleman's property, that we can look at that as a separate item here, and look to see if we can resolve that matter. It may or may not be possible, depending on the terrain in the area. I know it's a very tight spot, but we can certainly work with the gentleman and see if we can resolve the matter.
Okay, thank you. So, additional comments pertaining to 66897 Cockle Lake Road, please. If anyone is excited about this topic. Sure.
Yes, we're a neighbor, and The road leading to our place is narrow, as you probably know, and it's steep on both sides of the road. My particular interest is what are the plans for parking? Right now, we have very limited parking on the road. We have no on-site parking on our property because of the steepness. And I'm just wondering if somebody could fill us in on what the parking protocol will be. If they have crews working on site of the new construction, will they have enough parking on site for all the vehicles, or will they shuttle the crew in? We're very concerned about any of their parking spilling out onto the road, the narrow road adjacent to the property. So I'm just wondering if there's somebody in the room that can comment on how the parking will be handled.
Mr. Gill.
Your worship, through you, parking should be on site. When it comes down to crews parking on the streets, there is an issue with sort of work safe matters, and they need to make sure that they have the proper personnel flagging the situation. If that's not occurring, you can always make a complaint to the municipality. The municipality can go out there through bylaw enforcement and or roads crew to sort of address the issue.
Okay, thank you. Now?
Oh, yes, Gloria McCormick, and I'm at 66867, I'm 2 doors down as well. So I would like to also add to that, that the end of the road technically ends just beyond our house, and it's sort of a turnaround, and there's the one driveway that goes up to the property owner above us, and then through McRitchie's, and then into the other property. So that turnaround is really important, because that's where we don't have any fire hydrants, and that's where emergency and our fire department has to have access down that road and be able to turn around. And we find during the summer too, people will come park on that road, then emergency vehicles can't get in. So it is a huge concern. So we have one spot on this narrow one-lane road across from our property that we park on, and just the corner of the turnaround for a second vehicle. So we are really concerned that we won't have any parking, and neither will our neighbors, if the construction crews are parking on the road. And it's the same, sorry, it's not really a road, it's an old lane, correct? So, so we would like to have that parking issue addressed. We don't really want to have the situation occur in September, and then on Saturday try and get some help because we can't park at a residence. And I would also like to say that perhaps in the development of this property, there could be some consideration for their parking for their guests and themselves as well, because we'll be back at the same situation. So that's just one comment. I had another question. Can you tell us about the construction hours and days that we could expect to be impacted by this construction?
That's pertaining to the noise bylaw, correct?
That's correct, and I don't have it with me right now, but it's in our good neighbor bylaw, and I believe it's 7 a.m. till 10 p.m. or
Yeah.
And is that Monday to Friday? I think it's 7 days a week. 7 days a week. Wow, that'll be impacting, and especially because we are on the water and the noise will carry considerably. So, we don't have that in Vancouver. I guess the other concern I have about this rezoning is we don't have an issue with the senior suite, but by rezoning this property, then the new owners, or if they choose to sell again, they're rezoned and they could run a B&B out of it, or a daycare or whatever. It seems to open up the opportunity for other things.
Mr. Gill?
Your worship, through you, under its current zoning, they're allowed to do a daycare and a B&B as well.
Oh, they are?
Yes, correct.
Okay, and so we wouldn't be able to comment on that impact?
That impact is already existing if the house was built there currently. To keep in mind with the B&B aspect and all that, there are regulations that they would have to adhere to and also apply for a business license. So the regulatory end of things falls within the municipality's hands.
Okay, well, that would impact all of us, and there's about 12 properties on this narrow little lane to have a commercial venture. Is there any way we can put a covenant where basically we're just allowing secondary suite instead of giving it wide open?
Your worship, through you, once again, the zone currently of this property area allows for that. So anybody, your neighbors all along the little strip there,
Yes.
can pretty much also run a B&B if they met the guidelines.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, don't spread the word on that.
Okay, okay.
Can I just,
Yeah.
just one comment through you, thank you, Mr. Mayor, is if there were to be a business license applied for, as you pointed out, Mr. Gill, there would also be some other things that would have to be adhered to, such as parking. So if there was a B&B or if there was a daycare, there would have to be a satisfaction for the parking.
Oh,
And if
okay.
there is not, then it would not be.
All right, well, thank you, I appreciate that. And I guess I would just like to point out to the district as well to take note regarding the lack of city water to the 15 properties along the north side of the lake. And then I guess for our new owners, they're going to have to go to the expense of putting in their own well. And I guess significantly for the rest of us along that side of the lake, we have no water, and this will be one less property that's going to support us in our need for city water. And this is all especially in light of the dramatic increase of our taxes that we are now contributing to the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional comments?
If I could?
Yeah.
I'm one of the driveways that comes off in Falco Lake Road there too. And yeah, I agree with Ian, that should be revamped now while we got a chance. It's great we've got a new neighbor coming in there. But we should get that right. And it is workable ground, it can be done. So, yeah, I'm all for that. It's a quagmire there at the end.
Mr. Gill?
Your worship, through you, we can always bring it up to the proponent to say, well, we need to sort of adjust the area. I know that in the past that drainage issue has occurred more than once.
Yeah, it came off my property and I solved that, so.
Okay, so that I.
But it is still running.
Still running, okay.
You know, it was that one year we had that real big flood come down, and then we changed that course.
We're hoping that it's not going to be the existing driveway they're using, that they're going to improve it. If you think about it, the structure that they're building is something over 4,000 square feet, and it'd be kind of strange to have just this one singular sort of access, that they would look to upgrade it. However, at the building permit stage, we can look into it once they make application for that.
Thank you. Additional comments? Okay, I think, hearing that, I think we'll maybe have a quick 2-minute break. And those that would like to stick around for the council meeting are welcome to do so, and those that would not like to do that, then we can leave without disrupting anyone, and thank you all for coming. And council meeting will be starting up here in a couple minutes.